Thanks very much for joining us for episode 40 of InTek Freight and Logistics, the podcast. I'm Kevin Baxter, joined by my co-host for this edition, InTek President Shelly Austin. Hi, Shelly.
Hey, Kevin.
On this episode, we are focusing on our friends at the Intermodal Association of North America, or IANA. And we're talking about not only the upcoming EXPO event, but also issues facing the industry and its leadership with its longtime leader, President Joni Casey. Joni, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
So first off, for those who are unfamiliar, we've done a couple of podcasts where we've mentioned IANA before, but give us the elevator pitch of what IANA is, and then also tell us a little bit about what you do day to day as president.
I was actually going to call it an elevator pitch, so I'm glad we're on the same page with that one. So we basically are a trade association representing the combined interests of intermodal freight providers and suppliers. And the mission of the association is to promote the freight transportation using intermodal opportunities. So we've got a vision statement that buttresses that talks about how we do that. And those of you that are familiar with IANA know that we focus a lot on education, technologies, as well as advocacy on behalf of the industry. So it's those pillars that we base our activities on behalf of the membership in the industry in general. What I do on a day-to-day basis, I consider myself a consensus builder for the most part. That occupies the majority of my time, looking at the points of intersection between the disparate interests of our members. So I think that's what the bulk of my time is generally spent on.
And so, mentioning your members and the disparate interests, what makes up the IANA membership in terms of the different types of folks that companies, sure. Organizations?
Yep. We have five major stakeholder groups that participate, and I forgot to mention that we're 1,000+ members at this point, which we during COVID we had a drop off on that, and we've built back over to 1,000 members, and we're really proud of how that's been going. The stakeholder groups are motor carriers, both drayage over-the-road carriers, 3PLs, such as InTek, marine transportation interests, including facilities, railroads. And then we have what I commonly refer to as kind of an FAK division, and that's the suppliers to the industry, people that are providing products and services to the other members of the industry, chassis leasing companies, equipment manufacturers, technology vendors, that type of company.
Great. So one of the reasons we wanted to have you on now is because EXPO is coming up, your big annual event. Tell us a little bit about what it is, when it is, where it is, and we'll just kind of
go with that first.
No, happy to. So we really feel that EXPO is the place to be in the fall for freight transportation interests. It's the only place where you get all of the major stakeholders in one place at one time to talk about the wins from the industry, building on solutions, educating, as well as identifying issues that need to be dealt with. So there's a whole multitude of activities that take place. The Expo is in Long Beach, California this year, as it has been for the last 10 years, September 9 through 11. And we're tracking at this point in the registration and cycle period to have about 2,000+ attendees and 120 exhibitors. So we're happy that we've been able to sustain the interest in the numbers going into the event this year. And I'd like to mention also that the board of directors recently undertook an examination of the alternate venues for EXPO. They spent a better part of 6 months looking into this and made the decision to locate the event in Long Beach through 2031. So been there for 10 years, we'll be there out through 2031. Yeah, I think the venue provides an excellent backdrop with the Port of Long Beach there. And the city itself has been a pleasure to work with and is a good business partner. So there are a lot of things that go into making those decisions, but those are the major factors.
So first of all, Jenny, I think you sold yourself short on what you do on a daily basis because you are the queen of intermodal. You carry the torch for everything that we're doing.
I should put a
You should
crown
put a
on.
crown on, absolutely. And there's so much going on in intermodal right now. I mean, as far as policy and everything, and you know what's going on. You definitely have your pulse on that and helping us push forward what's in the best interest of intermodal. But if you think about all the different stakeholders that you mentioned, or modes that I like to call them, I mean, you have to know every in and out of each of those, whereas such as like a 3PL, or maybe not 3PL because we kind of bring in all those different parts and pieces as well. But a lot of people just have to focus on their piece, but there's all this collaboration with all those. And yourself leading that organization in your staff, you guys have to know all those ins and outs to help push us forward in the industry. So I just had to put that out there that I think you sold yourself a little short there, and you just are amazing in what you do on a daily basis. When it comes to...
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's often my nature to underestimate.
Well, we'll put it out there. Just leave it to me. I like to talk.
Sure. No problem.
So
I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to the expo, I mean, there's a lot of things I look forward to at the expo. I mean, it's a fun event. People call it speed dating for all of us intermodal goers because, I don't think we ever stop. And by the way, make sure you wear the right shoes when you go to expo. I learned that a long time ago. Don't wear those fancy pumps. But what are one of the things I love the most, and you mentioned a little bit about it, was the case competition. I mean, so not only are we there for the industry professionals and we get to all network and we do what we do, but the students, the upcoming experts in our industry, they get a lot from this as well. So touch on that a little bit, but also tell us what you look forward to the most.
Okay. Well, I echo what you said, Shelley. I mean, it's one of the best activities, in my opinion, that is kind of underrated in terms of attendees for Expo, is the student case competition. We have it every year. IANA's undergraduate scholarship schools participate. So there's an industry case that is a real-time situation that is going on in the industry that's presented to the students. There are 3-member teams that take that case, work that case, make presentations to a board of judges, a lot of which are IANA board members. And then there's a round 2, kind of an elimination round, then a round 2, where they are kind of ad hoc and answering questions directly from the judges versus making a presentation. And then at the end of that time, judges deliberate and come back with a winning school. And it's been a very popular event at the schools as well. A lot of them incorporated in the curriculum that they have leading up to Expo. We also, in conjunction with that, the schools send a lot of students to the Expo, which we think is a great opportunity for them to interface with industry participants, listen to the educational sessions, and just kind of grip and grin and get to know folks because they're all going to be out there looking for a job sooner versus later. And that's really one of the goals of the scholarship program, to educate the future workforce, intermodal workforce. So definitely case competition, and I'd encourage anyone that is at Expo to drop in on that. That'll actually be on Sunday the 8th. That's when it starts. But the students will be working on the 8th, but the public facing component of the competition is on Monday the 9th. So if you're at Expo, make sure you drop in to see that. Exhibit hall to me is always a great place to be. I mean, you see the latest and greatest innovations. We call it the big toys because we do have a lot of equipment that's on display, both on the exhibit floor, and then we've started putting equipment out on the promenade of the convention center. So that's the place to go to see the best equipment that's being deployed. The energy, I think, on the trade show floor is always high volume, and all kinds of networking activities that go on there. Would be remiss if I didn't talk about the educational programming. A lot of time and effort goes into putting together the right educational sessions. People come to Expo for different things, and for folks that are there to learn what is going on in the industry, as well as future trends, as well as government issues, just a variety of things, but we're on probably a 12-month cycle of putting together that educational programming. So there's a lot for folks to get out of the show. But really, I think despite what we just talked about, to me, the biggest aspect of Expo is the in-person relationships and meeting the IANA members, meeting the attendees, talking rather than, with all due respect, on Zoom meetings or telephone calls. You're there in front of someone, building relationships, because that's really what our business is based on, is the relationship building. So that to me is the most rewarding component of the event.
Yeah, I think it's funny, Joni, that last statement you made is so true. I mean, you just pick a chair or a table, just as JB and I do, in the lobby of the Hyatt, and if you just sit there long enough, you will meet everybody you wanted to meet, and they'll all pass by, and you can take care of all your meetings and stay in one place. I know it never happens that way because my feet kill me every time I'm there, but that is. You got to wear the right shoes. But there is one thing to be said. I know that you mentioned it, that we did an extensive search on the location, because it is a long travel for folks that are on the East Coast and in the Midwest. But I do think that the fact that the main hotels that surround this and the conference center are all so close together, you're able to do that networking a lot easier because you're within that same range, and you're not having to take Ubers or buses or shuttles to get where you need to get.
That's definitely a factor that goes into consideration when you look at things like that. If you're too far spread out, then you basically dilute the opportunities.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's do this Expo thing.
So if somebody else watching is ready, how do they go about it? Whether they're a member or a non-member, how do you get registered?
Hey, we welcome everybody. Our website, intermodal.org, is the place where you want to go to get more information and register. There's also information on IANA membership there as well. So you go to the homepage, and there are direct links off of the homepage at intermodal.org. And I'll put in a shameless plug that if you are an IANA member, your registration is discounted.
And there's also an advance purchase discount. This should be out with it for a few days at least for the early adopters of watching this podcast. You might still have time. August 2nd, right? The deadline on that?
Yeah, August 2nd, right. After that, it's full price.
All right.
Yeah, all I got to tell you is do it quick, because you wouldn't believe how early people send you a note and say, can I meet with you at IANA? Because I think my calendar is from 6 in the morning. I'm not kidding you. I got coffees at 6 in the morning all the way till dinners at 10 at night. So it gets filled up quickly.
I imagine a lot of people's itineraries are already full. So, and that's another benefit of the event. I mean, aside from all the official activities that take place at Expo, there are a huge number of sidebar business meetings, and that's a benefit to everybody as well.
Yeah, just getting everybody together. And so, talked about the event annually. This one's a little bit different for you. It's probably going to hit a little bit different, right? We just saw some news come out last week. Tell us about what that news is and how that affects you and Expo. So
you're referencing my retirement,
yes.
I guess.
I didn't want to put it into the question. I'll let you do it. Yeah.
No. That's perfectly fine. Nope. I've been here for 27 years. Looking forward to Expo. Don't know if it'll be my last one. We'll see what happens. But certainly, as IANA's president and CEO, it'll be my last Expo. So it'll be kind of bittersweet. But made the decision that I'd basically accomplished pretty much what I came here to do. Took 27 years. Maybe some people could have done it in a shorter time frame, but what can I say? I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I think it's time basically for new leadership to come in to build on what the association has done over those last 27 years or so, and move it forward. Kind of a hybrid of what we heard the president say last night, I guess. Time to bring in the next group of folks with good ideas to move us forward.
So Joni, as you look back in those 27 years, you say, how would you say intermodalism and IANA, the organization itself, how have they evolved?
Interesting. So IANA was formed in 1992. So I wasn't there at the beginning. I mean, I certainly was aware of it, but um, I think IANA came on board when intermodalism was kind of in its, I call it adolescence. And in the time that I've been at IANA, I think both the association and the industry have grown out of that adolescent stage, maybe that gawky stage. And um, intermodalism at some point has migrated, thankfully. Used to be a substitute service. That's how everybody described intermodal, which kind of is a derogatory term, I think. And it's grown to be a mode, a transportation alternative that's a viable, vibrant transportation mode versus a substitute service. And IANA has grown along with that in terms of what we've done with and for the industry. And I just think we've capitalized on the benefits of the industry. IANA itself has built very, very strong technology platforms to assist the industry. A lot of people aren't aware that we're one of the major technology providers to the industry. We don't get out and sing our own song so much on that, but our information services are really vital and necessary to the industry to keep the freight flowing, including the interchange agreement that we administer on behalf of the industry. Over 95% of the freight moves under that contract. So the association manages a standard industry contract that governs interchange. So I would say there's definitely been an evolution, both in our industry and with the association moving right along with it.
So, speaking of that, and you mentioned, the idea of bringing in some new ideas into the organization, but you probably still have some ideas of what's going to be the next evolution as well. So what do you see as where things go from here? You mentioned we're past the adolescent phase, but there's still some more phases after that, right?
Sure. I mean, you always have growing pains, even as you get older. From what I've heard and what I've seen, I think that technology is the key. When you've gotten to the moderately maturing level that we're at now, your advances are going to, I think, be driven by technology. And we have a lot of cutting edge ideas on the books. There have been a lot of attempts recently to standardize the technologies that we employ. I'm not so sure that that's the answer, but I do think we have to take advantage of the technologies that are offered, whether it's in operating systems, in equipment technologies, because that's where you're going to gain additional efficiencies. And the service that can take advantage of the efficiencies is the one that is going to be able to continue to provide the best, most economic options for the shippers. And certainly intermodal does that. In addition, we will continue to build on the sustainability. Intermodal is the most sustainable transportation option. And certainly we'll be building on that as well as you look at what's happening at the different facilities. And how we are continuing to reduce the carbon footprint. So I think technology and sustainability are where the industry needs to focus and grow.
Yeah, Joni, I think one of the cool things that I see is that, it used to be just a very few standard players in the intermodal industry. And I think that through everything you just said, through going through the technology, a viable service, it's something people have to have versus that they can have. You're seeing a lot more people get into the intermodal industry. You're seeing a lot more people buy equipment. You're seeing a lot more people, get into the drayage. And I think that is a testament to the fact that it is something that's needed, not something that you can just use.
Yep, I agree.
So I think
we're embedded. We're embedded, and there are growth opportunities both in terms of capacity as well as technology and sustainability growth. So I didn't mention the whole capacity issue, but I think intermodal is certainly an option that has flex capacity that a lot of other options don't have.
Yeah. It's very cool. And I think also that people, when they think intermodal, they just think of just that 53-foot container that's going down the road. But there's so much more to intermodal. There's the port activity. There's, the marine. There's so many pieces and parts to intermodal that people don't realize are part of this intermodal solution. And it's not just that container going down the road.
Well, and unfortunately, it scares some people too when you look at the number of partners, which is why I think it's important. And one of the things the industry and IANA does is try to continue to build on the collaboration. You have to have the collaboration in order to provide the best service possible. And you're right. You look at the different trade-offs, handoffs, and components involved, and it all rolls into a seamless service that is the most economical in terms of shipping goods.
Yeah, I agree. So, Joni, you even said it yourself. You don't toot your own horn. We try to do it for you. I've known you for so long, and that's the way I've always known you. Is you never compliment yourself or say have any highlights. So we're going to make you do it on this program. I'm sorry, but just be ready for that uncomfortableism there. I'm not sure that's a word, but I if it's not, I made it up. So you have done a lot. You've won a lot of awards. You've gotten a lot of achievements. Is there one particular one that you're most proud of?
Yeah, we hit on it a little bit earlier. I think by far it's been the development of IANA's scholarship program. That's been my baby. 17 years ago, it was conceived. And we built a program that was designed, as I think I had mentioned, to educate the next generation of intermodal workers, as well as build relationships between companies and the educational institutions so that they would have a knowledge basis to learn upon. A lot of the schools focused, when logistics became the buzzword, they focused on people that were purchasing transportation services for their companies. So the big box companies, there was not a lot of education for companies that wanted to hire people working with 3PLs and railroads and motor carriers. So our whole program was designed to build curriculums at schools that would educate the actual transportation, we call practitioners, people that were doing it for a living, not just purchasing transportation on behalf of the company. So we built that program from 2 schools to 14, and we're looking to add a few more. And I'm happy to say that a couple of the schools in the program are HBCUs, which was one of our goals. So that's probably one of my most favorite activities at the association, and I'll be glad to stay involved in that, and hopefully I'll be able to be.
That's fantastic. I mean, me personally being on the board, that's been my favorite part. So thank you for creating that. But
Yep.
What's really, really neat is when the students reach out to you afterwards. So it's not just at the moment of the expo or the case competition or any one of they reach out to you personally and they want more information or they want to just learn more. And I think that's what I've really enjoyed the most, and get to see some of these students because they're not all seniors. So you get to see some of them again in the next year and see how much they've grown and they've evolved from the first time you got to see them.
No, I agree. And I neglected to mention also that our program, I'm not aware that there's any other trade association that has a program like our scholarship program. And we've distributed $6 million in scholarships since the inception of the program. So well worth an investment like that.
Speaking of accomplishments, and you touched on this a little bit earlier, the membership is over 1,000 for IANA now. What was it when you got started, and was that 1,000 number kind of a goal that you had for a long time?
I want to say it was about 250 companies when I came in 1997. And you can set these artificial goals. And so I think we looked at membership growth incrementally based on the amount of programs and services that we offered. So I would say that things really started taking off probably early 20, 2005, 2006, ramping up to 2008 when I think we had our first big explosion, and it's been steady since then. We're also grateful that our retention rate of our membership is over 90%, and so that's a good benchmark to measure on as well. As I said, things slacked off a little bit during COVID. Companies were making tough decisions, and association membership is kind of a discretionary item, but we're glad to see that we built that back up, and we're at the highest level of membership that we've been since the association's been in existence.
Is there a future goal you think in terms of getting even bigger? Is this like the sweet spot, or is there something, another number that you look at down the road?
Not really. I think it basically depends on, like Shelley was saying, there's more and more people coming into the industry, but you also have folks coming out, attrition as well. So, I think it's arbitrary to set a number. I mean, I could say 1,500. I don't know if that's realistic or not. We have the core universe of the current intermodal industry providers, I think. And certainly if and when it keeps growing, it'll build back on the membership base as well, I hope.
So we talked about some things that we see, the areas that intermodal is got the opportunities with sustainability. That's something that, people are more and more focused on sustainability. We hear a lot about, electrification and all of that, but it's still really worth getting that message out that that intermodal is already there right in front of you, rather than waiting for maybe electric trucks, self-driving, whatnot.
Sure.
We've got some time left on that.
Absolutely. Nope. Totally agree. Totally agree.
So do you see anything in particular that might be the greatest challenge then for intermodal going forward as the years come ahead?
Yeah, I think it's been growing, and I would say it's this frenzy at the state and federal level to pass rules and regulations on a business that they don't really understand, with all due respect to our public sector partners. You've got folks looking at upending one of the long-standing business models in intermodal, as well as trucking in general, and that's the independent contractor business model. Both state and federal regulations are looking to basically undermine that model to the point where you would not be able to operate as an owner-operator in the industry anymore. That to me is a huge challenge. You mentioned electrification. You've got rules that are being promulgated that require you to use equipment that hasn't even been built yet. So how does that make sense? So I lump it under folks that just don't understand our business. So I think one of the challenges and threats is this growing amount of legislation and regulation that's going to come down on the industry, because they just don't understand what these isolated actions do to the supply chain, which in turn impacts the economy. So that would be my biggest caution, I think. And that's why IANA has a viable, we call it our visibility advocacy program. We're up on the Hill constantly trying to educate folks on what intermodal is and the different components, as you mentioned before, Shelley, and how they're integrated and work together, and how these isolated issues that seem innocuous, at least on the surface, can really adversely impact the supply chain and those networks.
Yeah, how receptive do you find, lawmakers once they've, they may have been in their lane to say, oh, this looks like a good idea, we should do this, and then they find out maybe they weren't even thinking about some of the implications or practicalities of the legislation. How receptive do you find folks to be when you do get that information out there?
They're always willing to listen. It's whether they take what they've heard and translate it into action. And that's really the uphill climb is getting the tangible action that you would like to have. So I think our efforts to educate have proven to kind of move the bar a little bit. But in terms of actual congressional or regulatory actions, we're still in a holding pattern on a couple of these things that we'd like to see move more in a positive direction towards the industry.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with a presidential election this year, you kind of are in a holding pattern until the next administration in Congress. So, but that doesn't mean you don't keep going up there and continuing to try to work with building. Again, it's relationship building, educate and build relationships with the various congressmen, senators, and their staff.
Yeah, Joni, that really resonates what you said. And I think it's important for everybody to truly listen to that, because I think a lot of people would have thought we already went through our largest challenge with COVID and after COVID and all these things that we've gone through this roller coaster with. But, the cool part about that was no matter which segment we were on, whether the high or the low or wherever we're at, intermodalism is kind of like the MacGyver approach, right? So, as long as you don't handcuff us, we'll find a solution. Whatever the issue is, we'll find a solution. And we did through COVID and through the ups and the downs. We've always found solutions as we collaborate and work together, because intermodal there's not just one way to do it. You can take this part and this piece and move it. I hit the microphone and move it this way and move it that way. And you can find a solution for whatever you're at. But what you're talking about here is handcuffing us to be able to create those solutions and take care of moving the product and doing what is best in logistics. And I think that's very important for everybody to take awareness of.
Oh, I agree.
So you talked about the fact that intermodal used to be maybe considered sort of a backup solution. That's changed, obviously, but there are still holdouts. So what do you tell somebody who is a holdout that may be receptive to the idea, or maybe hasn't even thought about it in a while, of getting into using intermodal as a key part of their strategy?
Well, I think as the freight builds back, I mean, right now some of the levels are lower than we'd like to see them. As it builds back, you're going to need capacity. And as people are looking for capacity to move their products, we'd encourage them to try intermodal. Don't have to put a toe in the water. Don't jump in with both feet. Put a toe in the water and see how it works for you. It'll provide you with economies of scale. It'll provide you with a cost-effective way to transport your products, and you'll be helping the environment when you do so. So I think those are the pillars. I mean, cost-effective solution, capacity that can augment your current programs, and also help the environment.
Now, is there one particular, over the years you've been involved in intermodal even before taking this position, is there one particular kind of thread, a thing that holds people back the most, would you say, that the most annoying myth that you deal with?
In terms of not using intermodal?
some hesitation that you've come across too much, basically.
I think it goes back to a couple of other comments we made, and the perception, at least, that it's very complicated, and it takes a lot of knowledge and understanding to get into the system. And obviously that's what 3PLs do for the customers. They help them navigate through the perceived complexity. Sometimes I just think that's overestimated, and it really isn't at the end of the day. I think you have dedicated, hardworking professionals that are there to help you navigate the solutions that you want to deploy to transport your goods. And I would say that's probably something that keeps recurring, is all the different moving parts that go into a successful intermodal movement. And again, that's what 3PLs are there to do for you.
Yeah, the shipper doesn't have to worry about that
That's
so
right.
much, really. Yeah.
We get to move those parts and pieces, right?
Yeah. That's what Shelley was whacking the microphone for earlier.
That's why I smacked the microphone. Yeah, exactly. I was having fun putting those parts and pieces together.
Let everybody do their jobs, and everything will work out just fine.
Well, so we talked about the industry. You talked about this may or may not be the last expo that you actually attend. So what do you have looking forward that you're looking to do now as you move on from this role that you've had for so long?
Well, I've got a couple months to go. I'll continue to get some things accomplished here, hopefully. Sorting out what the future holds. And all I can say is just stay tuned.
Good answer.
Absolutely. So before we go, one more time, we'll let you get a plug in for Expo and IANA.
Just invite everybody to come and celebrate with us, work, network, build new relationships, get reacquainted with old ones, look at all the big toys out on the promenade and down on the floor, have good food, and just enjoy the camaraderie that we have in our industry, because it really is some of the best transportation professionals you'll ever come in contact with, as well as the tools that they apply for their trade.
And again, it's intermodal.org for more information, registration, anything you need to do. It's right there.
Absolutely.
Well, Joni, thanks very much for joining us.
I really appreciate the opportunity, and see everybody at Expo, if not sooner.
Thank you, Joni.
Well, two-pronged conversation there. Good timing to talk about Expo, obviously. Yes. So, and I didn't ask you, actually. I don't know if we ever actually talked about it on the podcast after last year, because last year you were obviously the chairman of the board.
Yeah.
So how was that experience different from previous versions that you had attended?
It was very different. A lot more responsibility. As I mentioned, my feet hurt a lot more than years past. No, I mean, when you're not in a role like chairman, your perspective and what you're accomplishing at the expo is a little bit of a different focus. You're there to network. You're there to have meetings. So you're constantly moving from meeting to meeting with suppliers and vendors and customers and those types of things. In a chairman role, it's more to facilitate, educate, and organize. And so you're doing a lot of different things to help promote the people that are there, help educate the people that are there, and to bring all the groups together. So I feel like it was more of a administrative role for the IANA organization, in that chairman role versus, the low life me attending this year as the past president, since I'm just a lame duck now. It'll be a lot more interaction with the attendees that are there as far as our business goes, and working on more of an InTek perspective. Although I will always be very passionate about the IANA organization and always want to have a voice to carry it forward.
And the other aspect of that conversation was obviously talking about, Joni just announced, I think it was last week, right? The press release came out that she was going to retire at the end of the year. So a few words about, you've worked with her for quite a while.
Yeah, Joni has been a wonderful mentor in the industry for me, has taught me an awful lot about things that I didn't know in regards to the inner workings, and probably a lot in the policy of intermodal, because I don't get into as much of that in a daily basis. She's an amazing person herself, but just her knowledge and what she's done for the organization, while it be more of a silent approach, because she really doesn't promote herself very much at all. Those are very big shoes to fill. But I don't think this will be the last that we've seen of Joni. I think that she's got just too much good knowledge to sit back on the sidelines. So hopefully we'll see her pop up in that education role that she mentioned, and see how she's able to help do a little more consulting for folks because she might have a little more free time than what she's had running that organization. So I have no idea. She hasn't shared with me, but I can tell you that it would be sad for our industry if we don't see Joni come back in another role to help us all continue forward with the progress.
Yeah. I mean, it's 27 years in leadership of anything. I mean, that's kind of unprecedented,
It is.
really. So yeah. She must have been doing a few things right along the way, and so
I think so.
Yeah. But we really appreciate her taking the time to join us on this episode, and thank you as well for watching or listening, or however you like to consume it. Please do drop us a comment, like, follow, subscribe wherever you do get this podcast, and if you have a longer comment for us, if you have a question, feel free to email us at podcast@intechlogistics.com. Our website is www.intekfreight-logistics.com for more about what we do. And we'll be back with another episode soon. Shelley, thanks very much.
Kevin, always enjoy it. Thank you.
We'll talk to you again.